Remembering a murder victim. Now at 10, those who knew this young woman, 24-year-old Malia Bess, are honoring the life she lived. The apartment complex manager was killed while at work at a Jackson apartment complex. Thanks for joining us here tonight at 10. I'm Megan West.
A heartbreaking case. A marriage that had only just begun. And a husband who couldn't accept the painful truth that his young wife was slowly slipping away from him. Jackson, Mississippi, a place long known as the city with soul. But on one gloomy morning in late July, that soul was shattered by the crack of 7 gunshots echoing through a quiet office rental space. The victim, a 4-year-old woman, vibrant, beautiful, and living her youth to the fullest. The shooter, her own husband, a 52-year-old man who once swore to love and protect her for the rest of her life. They were once the talk of social media, a couple whose massive age gap sparked endless debate. But less than 6 months after saying "I do," what was once hailed as a love without boundaries had turned into a cold-blooded, irreversible tragedy. No one could have imagined that the very thing that would end Malia's life was the love she had once risked everything to chase. Why would a man she once trusted turn so brutally against her? Was it because she had been unfaithful? Or was this the inevitable end of a controlling, jealousy-fueled relationship where love was nothing more than a mask for possession? And what exactly happened on that fateful morning, a morning so violent the police had to call in a SWAT team, yet still couldn't save her? If you're watching this video, I ask you to please stay until the very end, not just to uncover the truth behind this case, but because this is a story that could save someone out there. Someone who's trapped in a relationship that seems normal, but is quietly rotting from within, a relationship laced with the seeds of violence. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so we can uncover more chilling, heartbreaking cases together, and drop a comment to let me know where you're watching from. Because who knows, maybe your attention, your voice, could help another Malia escape the same tragic fate. Malia Bess was born in 1999 and raised in Chicago, a city of bright lights, but also harsh realities for many black children. She wasn't born into wealth, nor was she a child of privilege. But Malia had something rare, an unwavering optimism and a fierce will to live. She dreamed of a life that was fuller, kinder, even if she had never truly known what that felt like. After graduating high school, Malia moved to Jackson, Mississippi to attend Jackson State University, a school known for producing many outstanding black students. True to her ambitions, Malia graduated on time, earning her degree and stepping confidently into adulthood. She soon found her footing in the real estate world, landing a job as a leasing agent at Westwood Apartments, a promising young woman with a bright future ahead. She often shared glimpses of her daily life on social media, mornings opening the office, calendars filled with scribbled notes, afternoons spent showing clients around apartments. On TikTok, she appeared in simple business suits, her braids neatly tied back, a soft smile on her lips, and a steady voice, the image of a young woman working hard to build a professional, independent life for herself.
Not flyers, but like brochures and everything set up on my desk. I'm checking out to see if any notes was left from security or any residents that may have had any issues last night or wanted to leave, something in the rent box, reading my devotion. And then here I am in my planner, writing down everything that I usually need to do for today, and then I check my emails as well as prospects, make sure we have any applications or anybody has any questions, work orders. Have to make sure you check that daily to make sure you're keeping up with the property. And then here we got a move-in today. I'm talking with maintenance to go over if we had any work orders or any move-ins for make-readies, punches, anything like that. And then I also had a tour today showing one of our beautiful 1-bedroom units that we have available. It's my favorite. I also have leasing tips as an ebook if anybody was interested in more books about financial freedom, budget planning,
And then, Ron Christopher Allen entered her life. At 52, he was nearly twice Malia's age, almost a 28-year gap between them. A man with a past, 3 children from previous relationships, a trail of broken romances, and no stable job to his name. At the time, he was even evading court for possession of prescription drugs. But Ron had a way with words, a way of making himself sound trustworthy, and to a young woman still new to love, that was enough. They met, they became friends, they went on dates, and soon, They fell in love. To Malia, Ron must have seemed like the kind of man she had been looking for, mature, experienced, someone who could offer protection. Perhaps she believed that being with an older man would mean she was safe. At one point, she even posted a question on social media: "Where have you been all my life?" As if, at last, she had found the love she had been searching for. Her friends and family grew uneasy. They didn't trust the man, and they certainly didn't believe a marriage could last with such a wide gap in age, in experience, in the very paths their lives were taking. But Malia made her choice. She chose to love. She chose to marry. And so, in early 2023, they were married. No lavish ceremony, no dazzling wedding gown, just a couple posing for simple photos with the caption, "Love is all we need." Love was all they had. And tragically, it was also all she would end up losing. No one knew then that their fairy tale would last barely half a year, that the very man who once vowed to love her for life would be the one to end it, simply because he believed she had betrayed him. For the first 3 months after the wedding, everything seemed fine. Malia kept working, kept posting her morning TikToks with the caption, "Come to work with me," and kept flashing that gentle smile at the camera as if her world was perfectly aligned. But beneath that calm surface, things were already starting to shift, slipping off balance, little by little. Ron had no steady job. While Malia dressed in suits each day, meeting clients, managing contracts, and building her career, Ron lingered at home. Every so often, he would show up at her workplace under the pretense of just visiting. But no one truly believed it was just a casual visit. Though their marriage was still fresh, Ron had already begun to exert a quiet but suffocating control over Malia. He constantly asked what she was doing at the office, who her clients were, whether any of them were men. And if she didn't pick up his call even for just a few minutes, Ron would immediately flood her phone, calling over and over, firing off dozens of messages. "Who are you with? Why aren't you answering? What are you hiding from me?" Malia began coming home later, staying behind to finish paperwork, tidy up the office, or give clients after-hours showings. But in Ron's eyes, none of that was work. To him, it was nothing more than an excuse to cheat. More than once, Ron showed up outside the apartment complex where Malia worked, standing at a distance watching, as if keeping her under surveillance. Her co-workers began to notice. Some even pulled her aside, gently warning her to be careful, but Malia would only smile and quickly change the subject. Once, a co-worker overheard Ron raising his voice at Malia right outside the office door, his tone shaking with rage as he shouted, "Don't think I don't know what you're doing with that maintenance guy." From that moment on, the phrase "work husband" began to surface. Ron convinced himself that Malia was involved with a maintenance worker at the complex. There was no proof, no confession, only the growing paranoia of a man who could no longer control his emotions. At just 24, she found herself living under constant psychological surveillance, every small action scrutinized as if it were a crime. And even more terrifying, no one knew what Ron was already carrying inside him, not just suspicion, but bullets. From suspicion to obsession, sometimes the distance is nothing more than a glance. For Ron, jealousy was no longer just words. It became something corrosive, eating away at him day by day, hour by hour, until his entire purpose in life seemed to revolve around proving that Malia had betrayed him. He began conducting his own investigation, tracking Malia's every move at the office. Ron would often sit in his car in the parking lot, watching her through the glass, silent, unnerving. One apartment staff member later said Ron seemed to know Malia's schedule better than anyone else, which days clients came in, which days she gave tours, even which days the maintenance man happened to be around. And then, the inevitable happened. Ron began talking about guns. No one knew exactly when he got his hands on one, only that by late July, he had told an acquaintance, "I know she's cheating on me. Let's see if she dares smile at him one more time." Meanwhile, Malia, still faithfully updating her social media, seemed determined to keep everything looking normal. She kept working, kept showing apartments, kept jotting her daily plans into her planner each morning, as if nothing had changed. But deep down, she may have already sensed that things were spiraling far beyond her control. Rumors began to spread quickly through the apartment complex. The leasing lady is sneaking around with the maintenance guy. One resident even posted on social media. The leasing office lady and the maintenance man both have families, yet they're messing around. No wonder her husband snapped and opened fire. What began as a private suspicion soon twisted into a community scandal. A story where anyone could toss in a fragment of gossip, fueling the fire and driving the tragedy further. And Ron, as if the whole world were now validating his paranoia, grew more and more incapable of holding himself together. He spiraled into panic. Jealousy morphed into a deadly rage. For a man with a history of drug abuse and skipped court dates, mental stability had always been fragile, and now it shattered completely. In the final days of July, Ron confided to a friend, "If she dares go with that guy one more time, I'll end it all." A week later, Malia got up to start her morning as usual, preparing for another day at work, unaware that Ron, too, had risen early and was planning to end everything. Morning of the 31st of July 2023. Malia rose early, just like every other day. She got ready, tied her hair neatly, grabbed her planner and handbag, and left the apartment for her job at the Westwood Apartments leasing office. What she didn't know was that Ron, her 2-year-old husband, had quietly woken up even earlier. He didn't wake her. He didn't say a word. He only prepared what he believed was the answer to every betrayal, a gun. Around 11 a.m., Malia unlocked the office and began her shift. As usual, she checked her emails, updated the resident list, and prepared files for incoming clients. Some residents later said they saw her speaking with the maintenance worker, the very man Ron had long branded as his rival. That forcer, that is rival Ted Light. A few minutes later, Ron appeared. No one knows exactly how he got inside. Maybe he slipped in through the back door. Maybe he followed behind a resident. All that's certain is this: when Malia looked up from her desk, Ron was already there. And then, the gunshots rang out. 1, 2, 3, then 4, 5, 6, 7. Malia Bess was struck by 7 bullets in the very office where she worked. She collapsed onto the tiled floor, the same floor she once swept clean each morning, where she welcomed clients, where she mapped out her daily plans. Blood spread across the carpet by the entrance. Screams filled the air. Residents panicked. Someone dialed 911. By the time police arrived, Ron had barricaded himself inside the office, armed with his gun, and the door locked tight. Officers sealed off the entire apartment complex. Neighbors were evacuated. No one knew if he was holding hostages, or if he was ready to open fire again. The SWAT team and hostage negotiators were rushed to the scene. From outside, they kept calling Ron's phone. He answered several times only to hang up without a word. No demands, no bargaining. Only silence. The silence of a man who had already destroyed both of their lives. For 3 tense hours, police held back, afraid that any sudden move might trigger more gunfire. The SWAT commander later explained, "We had to choose patience. One wrong move, and he could have turned the gun on himself or on anyone still inside." Finally, around 2 p.m., Ron opened the door. His clothes were still stained with blood. He didn't resist. He didn't speak. He was taken into custody immediately, ending the hours-long standoff that had paralyzed the apartment complex. But Malia could no longer be saved. A reporter at the scene said, "I could still see the bloodstains on the carpet right outside the office. No one ever imagined that a place so quiet would become the site of a killing in broad daylight. They say love can make us better versions of ourselves. But for Ron, love was nothing more than an excuse to control. And when that control slipped away, he was willing to kill the very woman he once called his whole life." That afternoon, the name Malia Bess began appearing across local news reports. At first it was just a few urgent lines. "Woman shot dead at leasing office." But soon, her name, her age, and smiling photos of Malia in her business suits flooded every headline and news feed. The people of Jackson were stunned. A young woman, only 24, freshly graduated, just beginning her career, had been murdered by her own husband. And it happened in the very place that should have been her safest space, her workplace. Malia's friends spoke out, filling social media with words of grief. Malia wasn't just a friend. She was a light. I warned her, but I never imagined it would go this far. Oh, love should never cost someone their life. Her co-workers at Westwood Apartments broke down in tears. One recalled, "I worked with her every day. This morning, we were just joking about a client running late. Minutes later, I heard the gunshots. Neighbors were shaken with fear. They remembered seeing Ron wandering around the complex time and time again. They had felt something wasn't right, but no one ever thought he would pull the trigger. Not in broad daylight. Not inside the office. Not in the place where Malia always tried so hard to keep everything in order."
Sleeping next to him.
Manisha Simmons is a close friend of Bess. She said their relationship was rocky, causing Bess to move out of their shared home and in with a friend. Simmons said Allen was also harassing her at work.
He was actually at my house yesterday on my couch. Sure was. And we talked, about them working the relationship out or whatever. And he left. It wasn't nothing alarming. I didn't feel anything. So
Bess's friends remember her as a mature, career-driven woman and a great friend. Simmons has a warning to those who may be in a similar situation.
even if you're not afraid, even if by every single shadow of a doubt in your mind, you think that that person would never do that to you, if they threaten you one time, take it seriously.
At a press conference, the Jackson police chief stated, "She came to work today, never knowing she would die at the hands of the very man who once promised to love her. This is a tragedy and a stark reminder that we must do more to stop domestic violence." Ron said nothing. He was taken into custody, his clothes soaked in blood, silent, hollow-eyed. No words of remorse. No tears.
35th homicide of the year compared to 71 this time last year. We've shown a drastic reduction in homicides, but again, this is domestic related. This is a husband taking his wife's life, then putting all of these other people's lives in danger, including law enforcement. Very sad day, but I'm glad that we were able to mitigate this situation without any further loss of life.
Malia's family was shattered. They hadn't just lost a daughter. They lost the faith that she would live well, live happy, just as she had always fought to do. And across the country, viewers could only sit in silence, staring at the final headline flashing across their screens. Victim shot 7 times by husband after 6 months of marriage. Immediately after his arrest, 52-year-old Ron Christopher Allen was formally charged by Jackson police with first-degree murder. He was ordered held without bail, now facing the maximum penalty under Mississippi state law. The murder weapon was recovered at the scene, along with the blood-soaked clothes Ron was still wearing when he surrendered after the 3-hour standoff. Police also gathered testimony from multiple witnesses, including apartment residents, Malia's co-workers, and even the maintenance worker Ron had labeled as his so-called rival. The initial investigation found no credible evidence that Malia had ever been unfaithful. No secret messages, no intimate photos, no confession of any kind. It was nothing more than the warped delusion of a man who lived consumed by suspicion and control. Court records revealed a chilling truth. Ron had skipped court appearances multiple times before the murder. He had a history of drug abuse, violent behavior, and even prior accusations of threatening an ex-girlfriend. But those warning signs were overlooked, leaving him with no serious criminal record officially on file. The preliminary trial unfolded quietly, yet under heavy tension. Prosecutors described it as a deliberate, premeditated killing, driven by jealousy and control. The defense, meanwhile, argued that Ron had acted under temporary provocation due to alleged marital infidelity. But the victim's family refused to accept that defense. They stood before the court, their voices breaking as they said, "She didn't betray anyone. She only wanted to live free, to work, to smile." The verdict wasn't delivered immediately. The investigation continued as more evidence was brought forward. Yet with 7 shots fired, the hours-long standoff, and the testimony of countless witnesses, Ron's chances of escape were virtually non-existent. Malia Bess did not die because of betrayal. She died because she placed her trust in a twisted love, believing it could heal the wounds of a man already rotting from within. She was not the first, and she will not be the last. Because out there, thousands of young women remain trapped in relationships where control hides behind the mask of affection, where jealousy is disguised as care, and where rage is excused by a wounded past. They live each day under a cloud of fear. If they don't pick up the phone, he'll lose his temper. If they smile at a male coworker, he'll shut down for a week. If they try to leave, he'll threaten to kill. And the world around them keeps turning. Family members say, "It can't be that bad." Neighbors think, "It's their business, not mine." And the victim herself, more often than not, is the last to believe she's truly in danger. Ron didn't kill Malia in a single moment of rage. He killed her slowly with suspicious stares, with relentless questioning, with constant surveillance, with chilling silences, until it all erupted in 7 gunshots. If you're watching this video, and any part of this story feels familiar, trust your instincts. Violence doesn't begin with fists. It begins with control, with isolation, with silence. Don't wait until it's too late. And if this story made you stop and think, please share it. Not for the views, but because someone out there may need to hear it, to wake up. Don't forget to like and subscribe so we can uncover more chilling, heartbreaking cases together, and leave a comment to let me know where you're watching from. Because who knows? Your attention might just save someone from the same fate as Malia.